and start the recording. And we will start this regular meeting of the Minneapolis Advisory Committee on Housing.
Great, welcome everyone. Good to see you all, or see your names in your little squares. We'll get started today. Looks like we have a quorum, so Katie, can you go ahead and call the roll?
I will. Karina Bowler.
Here.
Bruce Brunner. Joey Dobson.
Here.
Colleen Ebinger.
Here.
Jackson. Linsky Jaycox.
Here.
Ian Kimmons. Charlotte Kinsley.
Here.
Eliana Latron Garcia. David McGee. Lisa Mears. Melissa Newman. Colleen O'Connor Toberman.
Here.
Aggie Addy.
Here.
Pat Schaefer.
Here.
Janine Sija. Cecil Smith.
Here.
Rose Tang.
Here.
Annie Wells.
Here.
11 members here, so we have a quorum.
Great, thanks, Katie. So at this time, we'll entertain any motions to adopt today's agenda.
So moved. This is Colleen O'Connor Toberman.
Thanks, Colleen. Any second?
I second Karina.
Thanks. All right, Katie.
All right, Karina Bowler.
Yes.
On the motion to, okay.
Aye.
Joey Dobson.
Aye.
Colleen Ebinger. Linsky Jaycox.
Aye.
Kinsley.
Aye.
Ian O'Connor Toberman.
Aye.
Aggie Addy.
Yes.
Pat Schaefer.
Aye.
Cecil, did you say something?
No, I didn't hear you. Yes, I'm
Oh.
here.
Okay, and this is on the motion to adopt the agenda.
I approve.
Thank you. Rose Tang.
Yes.
Annie Wells.
Yes.
All right, 11 yeses. So that's adopted.
Great. Thanks. And now we'll entertain any motions to accept the minutes from our October meeting.
This is Scott Schaefer, so moved.
Thanks, Scott. Any second?
I'll second. This is Annie.
Thanks. All right, we'll go ahead and call the roll on that motion.
All right, Karina Bowler.
Aye.
Joey Dobson.
Yes.
Colleen Ebinger.
Aye.
Spilinski Jaycox.
Yes.
Charlotte Kinsley.
Yes.
O'Connor Toberman.
Yes.
Aggie Addy.
Yes.
Scott Schaefer.
Yes.
Cecil Smith.
Yes.
Rose Tang.
Yes.
Annie Wells.
Yes.
All right, there are 11 yeses. So those are adopted.
Okay, great. So now we've reached our public comment time in our agenda for today. Just as a reminder, we set aside 10 minutes of each of our agendas to take any public comments from non-committee members. We ask that anyone that is here to make a comment, keep your comments to a minute and to be related to housing issues in the city of Minneapolis, and if possible, related to an item on our agenda for today's meeting. We'll take notes on these and we'll follow up as necessary. So if anyone is present today to make a public comment, You can unmute yourself on your phone by pressing *6 now. Just let us know your name and then we'll call on you to make a comment. So is anyone here to make a comment? You'll need to press *6 to unmute. I'm not hearing any at the time. Is there anyone here on the phone who's here to make a public comment? If so, you'll need to unmute yourself by pressing *6. All right, I am not hearing anyone here today. So final chance, *6 if you'd like to make a public comment. Okay, hearing none, I think we'll move on, close the public comment period for today, and then we'll move on to the update section of our agenda, which I think, Katie, you're going to kick off with an update on homelessness response.
Yes, thank you. So I just wanted to share a few updates. I know it's sort of wrapped up, or not wrapped up, but continued the conversation on youth homelessness in October. So I wanted to follow up on one thing specifically related to youth homelessness, just to make sure the group was aware of. Hennepin County was one of 33 recipients nationwide to receive funding from HUD specifically for youth homelessness. So it's $3.4 million over 2 years, and then it's renewable on an annual basis after the first 2 years, up to $1.7 million annually. And I'm just going to read the objectives here. It's to center and elevate the leadership of young people across the country, create a coordinated community plan to unite the focus of local efforts to end youth and young adult homelessness, to expand capacity and pilot new models of assistance and support for young people, to build national momentum to prevent and end youth and young adult homelessness across the country, and to create and enhance cross-system partnerships. So it's kind of a big deal, exciting that our community was selected to receive this funding. So currently, Hennepin County staff are working on implementation plans. And so they are working on that over the next several months. And they're going to be, looks like next summer, selecting providers. So the kind of in planning phase now, they'll put out calls for proposals in the spring, and the next summer we'll be selecting providers who will receive funding under this initiative. So more to come, but just wanted to share that with this group, that's some new funding specifically for youth homelessness coming into our community. A couple of other things I wanted to share is that I know this committee has already heard about some of the American Rescue Plan funds for homelessness response. So there were funds approved for a women's shelter, and those are now that's moving forward. There was a planning commission meeting this week for the Hennepin County to acquire a site at 2400 Stevens Avenue, which will be a permanent site for a shelter for women that is currently temporarily housed at St. Joe's campus. And so the county is acquiring the site, the city's helping to fund that. So a portion of city ARP dollars are going toward that acquisition. In addition, tomorrow, the City Council will be considering some American Rescue Plan funding for shelter capital. The county board already approved up to $5 million for capital improvements for both shelters and then room and board facilities. And so the City Council is considering $2.5 million, which would sort of add to that pot of money. The city money would specifically be for shelter, for acquisition or rehab or capital improvements in our shelter system. So the goal is to try to make that money available through an RFP before the end of the year to help with shelter capital improvements and potentially acquisition of sites early next year. Just trying to continue on improving the existing shelter system, making sure it's COVID safe, and making improvements so that it's better serving the people who reside there temporarily. And so that's another piece that I just wanted to update the committee on. The last thing is that also with ARP money, and I know the committee has been interested in updates on sort of unsheltered homelessness and what response efforts are happening there. So again, the county is leading this, and the city is also going to participate with some of its ARP dollars. And there will be an RFP going out to do very specific targeted outreach and services for people who are unsheltered in Hennepin County and the city of Minneapolis, to really focus on housing outcomes and deep engagement with people who are unsheltered and making those connections to housing. And one of the new things within sort of the response system that has just come up and running is that Hennepin County hired, I don't remember the exact number, but it's 15 to 20 new case managers who are specifically focused on helping people who are either unsheltered or in shelters transition to permanent housing. So that's new additional case management capacity that we didn't have before, that's really focused on getting people out of homelessness and into permanent housing. So those are the updates I had that I wanted to share with the committee, and happy to take any questions on those pieces.
This is Karina. I have a question. First, I wanted to say that Queen said she's coming, so bear with her.
Great.
Yeah, and then on the 3.4 million, the money that will be allocated for the youth and the young adults, would they consider student housing? Because I mentioned that last time, so is student housing?
So I'm not exact. I don't think the $3.4 million is going to be used necessarily for housing construction. I think it's more around services for youth experiencing homelessness. But the definition, and I'd welcome Annie or Charlotte to correct me if I'm wrong, but is up to age 24 for youth homelessness. So that would certainly.
I think it's including age 24, so up to your 25th
yes,
birthday.
Thank you.
So 24 will be considered the young adults, right?
So for like the sort of HUD definition of youth homelessness is through age 24.
Okay. Because I know in Minneapolis public school student, I believe you can be a student till you're 24, but I wonder why the shortness of the age, why so many young adults that's 27, 28 are experiencing homelessness. So I would like, is there any way that I can like have some kind of communication for me to like put my input in? Because I mean, it's a lot. And I mostly talk to a lot of the, homeless youth and young adults. So they within the parks and stuff. So I would like to be the voice of that.
Karina, are you asking specifically for the this new money, if there's a way to provide input on how it would be allocated?
Yes.
That's a good question, and I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what the process will be, so I can find out some more and follow up in December on that, because I know there's some planning happening now. So I'll get a little bit more information and bring an answer back at our December meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Karina. I was going to ask kind of a similar question about a few of these, just if you saw, Katie, where you saw opportunity, if any place for our committee to weigh in, either on the development of like how the youth homelessness money is going to be implemented, or through some of the American Rescue Plan projects. And is the vote tomorrow sort of a final vote on the shelter capital one? Anyway, just what would you recommend as a committee we consider? We've kind of struggled with this of we talked about it either last month or the month before about how do we weigh in, how can we weigh in on homeless response issues.
Yeah, so yes, the vote tomorrow for the shelter capital is the final approval for those funds, but there is more American Rescue Plan funding that is not going to be taken up until next year. So there will be more opportunity to weigh in on like the next round of American Rescue Plan dollars, and potentially in December, maybe we could get an update from the mayor's staff on kind of where that process is and the best way to weigh in. The other place where there is this the Heading Home Hennepin committee is one of the committees of the continuum of care. So so all of the federal dollars that come into Hennepin County for homelessness response, there's different continuum of care committees that kind of weigh in on priorities. So one of those is the Heading Home Hennepin Executive Committee that the mayor and Commissioner Conley co-chair. They don't really have a public comment process but the mayor as the co-chair would certainly be, and because this is a city advisory committee, I think that could be another potential thing for us to consider would be, and the committee also has council members on it. So currently it's Council President Bender and Council Member Schrader. Obviously that will change next year with the change in council. But that would be, I think, another strategy for this committee would be to specifically reach out to the mayor and the council members that sit on that committee to provide some suggestions or weigh in on items. That committee, it's really pretty specifically about funding and sort of strategies and prioritizing around funding. But that's another possible place to weigh in. And of course, continuing to advise the mayor and the council on these issues.
Hello, this is Queen.
Hi, Queen.
All right.
Maybe I'll just kind of make a note that we could maybe consider inviting the mayor and or someone from the mayor's office and whoever. I'm not sure how quickly it'll be determined which new council members will be on that Heading Home Hennepin committee in 2022. But maybe we could think about in our agendas for this committee for early 2022 is two things. One, inviting folks to come talk about, and maybe we can consider recommendations on the ARPA round 2 funds. Since by January, December we can talk about it, but it might be helpful once we know what the official 22 budget has in it. Then we know maybe what didn't get funded or what we think we might want to recommend using some of those ARPA dollars for that second round. And then, yeah, inviting them to the folks from the city representatives to the Heading Home Hennepin committee, executive committee, whatever. I'm not sure I got that right. To even just present to us what are some of the projects or things being discussed so that we know what might be appropriate things for us to comment on. So I'm just going to make a note for maybe considering those for early 2022 agenda items for our group, if that sounds okay.
Yeah, I like that, Joey.
Any other questions or thoughts on city's homelessness response work for Katie?
This is Queen. I'd like to kind of chime in a little bit. I've seen that there is a continuum of care list that has like St. Stephen's and all these other places that deal with ending homelessness, but yet, and there's millions of dollars out here, and a lot of people that are doing work with outreach and homelessness, they don't know how to get on that list, and they don't even know how to go about and get some of that funding. So I would like to know if there's a way, this is at the county level, and is there a way that some information can be distributed about that? Like there's a whole host of agencies that receive that funding.
So I can follow up and look at, I mean, there's definitely lists that anyone could sign up for through the county, both the county and the city, for that when there are funding opportunities, they get sent out through there's ways to sign up on either the county and city website for funding opportunities. So I don't know where it is off the top of my head, but I could find that as well and send that to you, Queen, and we can put it in the notes for this meeting too.
A broad
Wonderful.
resource for that or place to start is the Heading Home Hennepin website. And if you sign up for that email list, they tend, like their updates tend to be pretty broad and include links to other updates that are happening in other places. So that's a good place to start. It's not necessarily going to have all of the details, but if you're not already on that list, that's a good one to get on.
Thanks, Annie.
And
Good.
are they connected with Homes for All and all that? Because they got $500 million.
Well, Heading Home Hennepin is specifically Hennepin County's list. Homes for All is like coalition of organizations advocating for funding, primarily at the state legislature. So probably the 500 million is what Homes for All, maybe, I don't know if that's what was funded last year for housing or not. But anyway, when Homes for All is advocating for funding, it's sort of just what they're advocating for certain programs, typically at like the state Housing Finance Agency and Department of Human Services.
Well, Jacob Fry must be a great ally to them, because the city is more so leaning towards that particular group for any type of funding or any type of outreach resourcing as well. So I just wanted to point that out and put that out there. And also, I just got off the phone with Senator Omar Fattah, and he wants to come out to this event, because he feels like there's a lot of people over there at George Sherman and Associates building in Cedar Riverside, and that would benefit from that rent help information, and just to kind of get out there and do some networking. And I told him I think that would be a good idea, come out and do some networking and just kind of get to know people, because people don't know, again, they don't know the wonderful job that Rec Services does, or that CPED does, or who to get in contact with, or how to get in contact with, legal aid or whatever. And I just think that this is going to be a very dynamic and powerful thing to get individuals, together in a space and talk about how we can be supportive of renters.
Thanks, Queen. And just one on the Homes for All piece, I will just say that the city does participate in Homes for All meetings. The city's the government relations team that works at the state legislature does participate in Homes for All meetings to advocate for funding for affordable housing at the state level. And yes, Queen, thank you for mentioning the event that a few of us met about earlier in the week, and we have not brought that up on the agenda yet. So I don't, Joey, I don't know what you think is the right.
I think it's fine to talk about it now. Yeah.
I can give a quick, Queen had suggested at an earlier meeting, maybe a month or two ago, that it would be a good idea for this committee to host an event about housing, and particularly help people access emergency rental assistance or legal services, or just get information about housing, resources that might be available to them. And so a few of us met earlier in the week to brainstorm a little bit about the potential for doing that, maybe sometime in December. And so, Queen, I don't know if you have anything to add, or Joey, I think we talked about raising it here to see if there might be a small group of committee members who's interested in helping to try to put something together. But I'd welcome others to add more.
Guys,
Go ahead, Joey.
Okay, yeah, I think so legal aid is willing to, participate and provide bring some lawyers to either do group conversations or provide one-on-one advice to people at an event like this. I think the question for this group is, are we interested or willing to sort of formally sponsor an event like this as the Housing Advisory Committee? The idea being having renters specifically located in North Minneapolis be able to walk in on kind of a Saturday midday to get help with rent help applications, maybe talk to an attorney, get some other housing resources. So I think the question for this committee, first and foremost, is are we interested in kind of officially sponsoring that? And then anybody who is here in either their personal or professional capacities could certainly, come and bring whatever resources you might have to bring to the table. It wouldn't be an obligation to come or anything. It would just be something that we would put our name on and support as helpful. So does anyone have thoughts about whether they think this committee should, thoughts on this committee sponsoring an event like this that Queen is really spearheading?
Joey,
Yeah, go ahead.
how is this within the scope and mandate of the advisory committee? I mean, I'm looking at what we're charged to do.
The Trans Equity Summit is an example of a event that an advisory committee puts on every year. So I don't necessarily know the answer to that, but it's it happens in other places with other committees.
And
They somehow manage to get a budget for it, which is great.
Yeah. Do they have the same scope of responsibilities as we do? I'm just reading that in terms of what's on the city website, we're advisory to the mayor, city council, and city departments on a wide range of issues related to housing.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree. Like, this event wouldn't necessarily be advising the city unless we wanted to, there's a way that it could be, though, indirectly. We could, or directly, we could invite city council members or city staff and mayors to come to, basically set up that conduit between renters and city staff and decision makers. Also, I mean, I think even if it isn't officially advising the city council or the mayor's office on anything, I'm not sure I see anything in our kind of charging document that would preclude us from putting our name on something like this and putting it together. I guess that's my interpretation.
And I can actually offer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Queen.
I think that, so when we talk about housing and renters and, have we been doing a good enough job, a better job at engaging people in the community? Do we get some sort of insight about how things are impacting them? Are we able to take some of the issues that is affecting people that are residents in certain communities, how it's affecting them? And I think that we should really, as a committee, as a body, we should be able to address some of those policy issues that is put out there and how those individuals that are impacted by, not knowing what rent help is. I think that would be a greater way to kind of look at using this body of work that we've been doing. I'm gonna recuse the mic.
Joey, can I respond?
Oh yeah, of course. I don't think I don't think there's any need to be overly formal here.
So I can understand that perspective. I just thought that the advisory committee was selected to bring stakeholders and representation to the table. So I think the membership has a responsibility to be doing that. I can understand if you want to do that collectively, but certainly the groups and organizations and the background and experiences that this group is selected for is clearly indicative that we're meant to bring those viewpoints to the table in an advisory capacity. We're not coming to the table without knowledge and experience based upon both our professional lives and our personal lives related to housing. So I thought that's why we were constituted, to bring that experience and understanding and knowledge to the discussion. But I also understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I think this is just one way to like keep that ongoing and keep our committee, you know, sort of transparent and open to the public for those who aren't on the committee but might want to share their thoughts and opinions. And it's maybe just a way of continuing that obligation to know what our community members are concerned about or interested in with regard to housing in the city. But I guess my question.
So in the spirit of that, if I constitute a group of owners and operators, would this group be willing to meet with them?
I don't know. I think we could certainly ask that, and I think that might be a great idea.
Okay, good.
We would certainly bring it to the group, just like we're bringing this to the group. Do any other committee members have thoughts on this event, on whether we would want to officially sponsor it as our Housing Advisory Committee, or if we want to not do it that way and just spread the word and those who want to participate can?
This committee member, Karina, I think it's definitely a great idea. Thank you, Queen, for running this. I think it's something that's needed. A lot of people don't know about our housing committee, or they're just not aware it's even happening. So the awareness is there for renters. Considering with all the housing issues that we have, it's a need, an opportunity for people to get out and get engaged, and we continue to be transparent. Thank you.
Okay, well, I do think we want to make sure that we're moving on through our agenda. We have a few other things to get to. I don't know if it makes sense to, I know this wasn't on the agenda, so I'm a little wary. I know in the past, you know, we don't want to maybe take too much formal action without it having been on the agenda prior to the meeting. But I don't know, I'm kind of looking to Colleen or Katie if you have thoughts on how we want to move forward with this.
I don't know. I mean, I wasn't part of the conversation earlier this week, so I just don't have a lot of context to. Katie, what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think if there was maybe a group who wanted to do some brainstorming, I know the thought was potentially to do this in December, so I don't, but one idea would be if there were a couple of volunteers who could do a little bit more brainstorming and maybe come back with a more formal proposal for the committee to approve in December. That might mean we didn't actually do the event until January, but if the committee decided to do it, but that might be a way to handle next steps.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. And so maybe Queen, I would just say it could kind of be up to you as the leader of this idea of either moving forward with it, you know, and just recruiting who you want and who wants to be part of it if we want to move forward with it in December. Or if you'd really like to get this committee more involved, then we can think about putting together a more detailed plan or proposal to bring to the December committee meeting. Does that sound like an okay place to leave it for now?
Yeah. So I'm willing to put my own dollars out there. You know, I'm willing to put. I understand that this is a need. This is important. This is around a lot of holidays, and there are families out here who are not getting enough engagement and enough understanding about rent help. And of course, there's some other issues out here with individuals and landlords about rent hikes based on utility usage and those things being tacked together. And I think that This is definitely a time where we need to think about, we got renters out here that need that kind of help. And so if there's any other people, I have my own organization, and my organization usually does events around this type of thing. And yeah, I think that this would be a great opportunity for people to kind of, those that want to be engaged. It will be in the daytime. There will be safety precautions measured, and put in place. And I think that this would be a wonderful way for, us to, meet some of the people over here at UROC. So can't be that hard of an ordeal.
And Queen,
And those individuals from here, those individuals that are on this committee, let's get together.
So, and Queen, as I mentioned to you when we met earlier in the week, the city has contracted with a few different providers to deliver, to process emergency rental assistance and to do outreach around it. And so certainly I'm happy to work with you to try to make sure a few of those providers can be there. I think if it's going to move forward in December, it's more of a awareness for the committee and for members who want to participate in whatever way they can do that, and it's less of an official committee event.
Yes, and bring information where people can engage that, and get that information and be able to apply themselves and apply that information, for whatever reason that they need. So yes to all that. Yes.
I just want to give a quick update to just on the topic of rental assistance, that the Zero Balance project is going to be closing for landlord applications on Friday, and then there'll be 2 more weeks for renters to submit their portion of that application. So for those who, so spread the word. Anyone who knows or rental property owners who might have renters with rent owed, encourage them to get it started, and then renters have, again, the 2 weeks or so after that.
So that will be ending around the 1st of December, the end of November?
Yeah, so tomorrow is the last day for the property owner application. And then it's actually, see, what are we at? December 5th, I think, right, Katie? It is December 5th is the deadline then for the renters to make their, to submit their portion.
But just to clarify, that's for Zero Balance project only.
Right.
That's not for Rent Help MN. So Rent Help is still accepting applications beyond that. And Minneapolis and Hennepin County residents can continue to apply through Rent Help MN for assistance beyond those dates as well.
There will still be money available in the system. That's just one of the particular programs. So just point being, kind of the same message that everyone has been saying from this whole time is just, if you know anyone who needs assistance with rent, encourage them to apply as soon as possible.
Was there anything else either from Katie or anyone else on rent assistance, since we kind of started that?
I think just the other thing, Joey, you can speak to this better than I can, but I think one of the messages, or just as it relates to the eviction moratorium, off-ramp, and rental assistance. So the point we are at now is that in the eviction moratorium off-ramp period, is that renters who have a pending application for COVID-19 emergency rental assistance still have protection from eviction. However, it's really important that if somebody does get an eviction notice, that they show up to their hearing in order to sort of make sure that protection is in place. Because if they don't show up to their hearing, Joey, you can speak to this better than I can, but it may not be, they may not receive that protection. Is that right?
Yep, exactly. And even beyond that, the protection is there like Katie said, if a person has a pending rent help application, but only if the case was filed on the basis of non-payment of rent. So eviction cases are either filed for because someone's behind on rent, or because the landlord is alleging that the tenant breached the lease, or because they are basically, it's called holdover cases, where the tenant is staying there after their lease has expired and notice has been given, and they're still there when the landlord is saying they are staying past when they're allowed to be there. So those holdover cases, that last category, I just want people to know that the protection is there if the case is just about rent. We are seeing a pretty significant increase in case filings in Hennepin County, and we're expecting that to increase again, likely in the beginning of December, because landlords might have been able to give a notice to end a month-to-month tenancy, like giving the notice in October for the tenancy to end at the end of November. And then if a family hadn't moved out by the beginning of December, we could be seeing an increase in those kinds of cases. So if the case is just filed on the basis of holding over, even if a family has a pending rent help application, that won't be a legal defense to the eviction case. But yes, absolutely, message to anyone who's kind of on the brink is apply for rent help, talk with your landlord about what's going on, call an attorney, call legal aid if they need to. And if there is an eviction filing, absolutely need to still come to the court, because the court doesn't have kind of their own independent way of knowing who has rent help applications in. We are working, there are folks from rent help who are coming virtually to Zoom housing court. And so we're able to identify between us and the folks from the county doing eviction representation, kind of identify who has an application in. We just need to get that information to the landlord, who needs to get one in. And then there's folks there at the court to help. So come to court, call a lawyer, apply for rent help. We are seeing an increase in eviction filings.
Oh.
If there aren't any questions on that, Katie, do you want to give an update on the rent stabilization charter amendment, just since if there's any news since our last meeting?
Yes, so I mean, there's not a lot to share other than that the election happened, of course, and the rent stabilization charter amendment passed. So I guess that's kind of a big thing to share. So it was passed. Of course, the distinction between what happened in St. Paul and what happened in Minneapolis is that in St. Paul, their vote actually adopted a policy. In Minneapolis, it was the yes meant that now the city council and mayor could consider a rent stabilization policy if they choose to do so. Because without that vote by the voters, they were preempted by state law from doing so. So it now just gives the council the ability to create a rent stabilization policy. So that's the main update to share. You know, there's obviously a lot of change going on in the city of Minneapolis right now. There was also the Amendment 1 was adopted, which changes the government structure. So there's just a lot being figured out around all of that right now, and what that all is going to look like next year. And of course, we have quite a few new council members who will be coming in next year. So certainly we'll keep this committee informed as things move forward there. But the main, there's not like a policy in the works at the moment. There's still a lot of going on to figure out just all of the different changes that took place. But the amendment was adopted, and so the city could now consider creating a rent stabilization policy.
And so maybe that's kind of a nice segue into our final, thing that we have here in the update section, is just talking about our plan for our December meeting for this committee. We did a little bit of that here, identifying some things we might want to talk about in early 2022, but we don't have it all set out how we think we're going to do this for December. But I think the idea is that we'll do some debriefing over of 2021 and some of the things that we've worked on as a committee, and then do some thinking ahead to what we want to tackle in 2022. So this is really just a pitch to come to that meeting if you can, and to come with, any thoughts or ideas you have on what you'd like to see this committee prioritize, or agenda items for the new year. Not that we'll set the whole year's agenda items in stone at the meeting, but just want to get some brainstorming going. so that the co-chairs and staff can kind of provide and make sure that we're making these meetings meaningful to do what everyone wants to do for the next year. So if people have thoughts in the meantime, before, in the coming week or two, let us know if you have thoughts on how you'd like to see that meeting go. But otherwise, just come with your ideas for what you really want to see.
Joey, the other thing, and this is on the agenda next to talk about the opportunity to purchase policy, but I think their staff was hoping to come and give a deeper presentation on the current draft policy in the December meeting as well, which I can talk about momentarily, but just as another potential agenda item or likely agenda item.
Great, thanks. Yeah, and I think, we can think about how in the new year, we too want to think about like having someone come talk about what the Charter Amendment #1 means for a government restructuring and what, all of that is on the table. But yes, likely considering a draft opportunity to purchase ordinance in December as well. So not just a holiday party meeting, no Zoom trivia. We'll see.
Just while we're talking about meetings, we will still be virtual in December, but it is most likely that starting in January, we'll be back in person. That's when the current sort of emergency order ends and the council is intending to return to in-person meetings. Certainly, if that changes, we'll keep you informed, but that is currently the way the emergency order is structured. It expires at the end of the year.
Follow up on that, Katie. Do you know if there's been any talk? I know previously, before COVID, committee members could not participate remotely, over the phone or anything, and still at least not constitute, be part of a actively participating member for that meeting or vote. They wouldn't count toward quorum. Do you know if there's anything in the works to maybe consider having more flexibility with whether a person, was there in person or not moving forward, or not sure?
The last that, and I don't know if Tina or Lisa is on and might recall this as well from one of our updates from the clerk's office, but my understanding is that if somebody was participating remotely in a public meeting, then sort of their house and the room they're in becomes like public space. And so I guess you could do that, but then it means like theoretically someone could kind of show up at your house to participate in the meeting with you. And that would you'd have to do that under the public meeting law. It's sort of the way I understood it and why it feels like it doesn't really work because of the public meeting law. Tina or Lisa, please speak up if I have that totally wrong, but that was my understanding of why that was hard to work out given the public meeting laws.
Yes, I believe that was my understanding too. And they were still going to allow others to attend, but not remotely, but not committee members.
So obviously there's still health considerations. And so, there is a mask mandate in city buildings right now. I assume that will continue. And we can certainly look at finding a large room that allows for plenty of spacing. But as more guidance comes out on this, we can keep you all aware. I just wanted to let you know that's the sort of the current, what's currently in place around public meetings. They're still virtual, but that is likely to change in the new year.
Great.
I got Katie, and I have a question. It's a little bit off topic, but is there any updates for the GBI program?
Yes, I don't have them. The details, any details? This Karina's talking about guaranteed basic income. There was a pilot that was adopted as part of the ARP funding. I think we're close to starting to accept applications, but I don't know the details off the top of my head. I can follow up with you, Karina, and send you the details. And we could certainly try to get an update on that at another meeting.
Okay. I asked that because it's gonna help the people the most impacted. So let's just say, a person lives in HUD housing and they get the extra 500, their rent will go up. So I was kind of concerned about that factor, because people are gonna be right back in the same boat if they receive an extra $500 a month, because that is considered income. So
I know that the people working on the program development are taking that into account. They've been working with the state to make sure they understand how that would factor into any type of benefits. And so I don't again, sorry, don't know the details today, but I can get some more information for you.
All right, thank you.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move to the update on opportunity to purchase.
Okay, so this is going to be pretty brief today, but I just wanted to make everyone aware that I think, as I've shared throughout the year, that staff have been working on a draft ordinance for an opportunity to purchase policy. It was based on a staff direction that was passed earlier this year by the City Council. And so that is posted publicly now as of this week. And so I'm going to share my screen just to show you, and then I'll also share a link in the chat. And for people on the phone, I can kind of walk through how you navigate to this. But there is a website up on the city's webpage, a renter opportunity to purchase webpage. I'm going to put it in the chat as well. And then let me tell you how to navigate to it. Sorry. There we go. So to navigate to it, if you go to the city's website, if you go to departments, which is on the far right-hand side in the blue bar, go down to community planning and economic development. And then in the housing policy and development area, you should find a link to the renter opportunity to purchase ordinance development process. So on that page, you will see there's a presentation that has been used to present this to council members. In some meetings, there's a draft ordinance, and then there's a timeline of kind of what this process has been so far. So we started with a city council study session September 2019. There have been stakeholder engagement toward the development of a report that was done throughout 2020. The report was presented to the city council in November of last year, and this committee also received a presentation on the report last year. I guess it was a slightly different makeup of the committee. And then in March, the city council directed staff to draft an ordinance and gave some parameters for what should be included. And so then since beginning in May through November, the city had a consultant working with city staff, city attorney's office, staff from CPED and regulatory services to work on a draft ordinance and materials for council consideration. There are 2 stakeholder meetings planned in December on the 3rd and the 8th, and you can register to attend on the website there. There's also a survey linked on the website that anybody could fill out and respond to. And then I would just note, obviously, step 7 and 8 are tentative. As I mentioned, there's a lot of change happening now. We're not even sure if it'll be the exact same committee structure and things like that next year. But we are moving forward with the stakeholder engagement in December to get feedback on this draft ordinance. So wanted to share all of that. The intention is to also have a presentation at this committee, the December 9th Housing Advisory Committee, to go through the details of the ordinance. But you can certainly look at the presentation and the ordinance language on this website prior to that. And there will be those stakeholder sessions in December for questions. So that is that's basically the update I wanted to share today, and happy to take any questions if there are any.
Can you also just drop the link to that page in the chat?
Oh, did I not? I think I did.
Or did you do? Oh,
yeah.
Thanks.
And feel free to share the link in the stakeholder engagement sessions with others. They're open to anyone.
All right, thanks, Katie. And yeah, we'll have a lot more discussion on that at our December meeting, which is only 3 weeks from today. Okay, so I think we're ready for our final discussion item. Maybe I'll pass it over to Colleen and Maggie and others who've been thinking more about the budget.
So Maggie has been doing, I think, the most thinking here. So do you want to just give a little bit of an overview of the thinking you've been doing in the meantime for the committee, and then we can go move into discussion there. But if you want to tee it up, that'd be helpful.
Sure. I mean, it's pretty short. I mean, so at our last meeting, we went over kind of the big picture of the budget, some of what's new, what's cut, what Scott and Rosa and I thought would be good recommendations for this committee. And then for today, Scott has put together a Mentimeter, which is a little survey to help us prioritize those items. So we took the pieces that we had laid out in our presentation last time, as well as a couple of other things that had come up during the presentation. And then I don't know the best way to distribute it. Maybe we should just email that to people now-ish. I can reply to maybe to our agenda email, and then everybody will get it. I don't know if it probably the best thing would be for folks to just do it, take a couple minutes and do it right now, and know that these are all important things that we care about in the budget. But if we had to prioritize, thinking about limited resources, and if you had to put them in an order, what would that be? And then we can take all those results and turn those into a comment that we submit on behalf of the committee to the council.
So Maggie, how are we thinking we're going to do that? Are you putting it in the chat, or you want to email it to everyone? Chat is probably.
Is chat easier? Okay.
I think the chat's probably easier. Right. Although, well.
With the phone, folks.
Well, yeah, that's right. So we could maybe do both.
Okay.
So for those who are on camera in the chat, probably is most directly in front of our faces, and then for those on the phone, if we can get it through the Mentimeter. And then it sounds like, but some people, they're on phone, might not be able to answer at the same time. So.
Right.
So let's just try to.
Okay, so you should have that in your inbox or in the chat. And then I think, Scott, you're the only one who can see the results, so you'll have to let us know when those come in.
Yep, I can do that.
Could someone remind me what the difference would be between the housing stability and emergency support for low-income renters? Or is that a complicated question?
I think the emergency support is more focused on sort of COVID response this moment versus something maybe a little bit longer term. That was my interpretation of it. Is that accurate? Wrote it.
So I think that actually came from the prioritization areas for the ARPA spending. So let me see if I can find how they defined those.
While you're doing that, Maggie, just for anyone who's on the phone who's not a committee member, I'm going to read the funding priorities that you're considering ranking right now, which are housing stability for low-income renters and homeowners, support for persons experiencing homelessness, emergency support for low-income renters and homeowners, stable homes, stable schools, reduce racial disparities in homeownership, create new low-barrier and affordable housing, and health and safety resources and engagement for tenants.
I don't know if it spoils it to share the results as other people are maybe completing the survey. So that'll skew your answers.
Can someone send me the email? I didn't receive it.
I can send you the link, Karina.
All right, thank you.
What do you think? Should a couple more minutes? People, particularly for those on the phone.
I did receive this email, and is this to make a motion to approve the minutes, or what is it?
The email, there's a short link at the very top of the email. So it's, if you click on that link, it's just a voting mechanism to say which of the budget priorities you would rank highest or what order to rank them in.
Okay.
So you can disregard everything else and just look at that link at the very top. And Kelly, what is our total attendance today? How many committee members do we have on?
I was just looking at that too. I think we might have 10 now because Colleen had to go. So I think 10 would be all the members.
How many we have now? I actually, Katie
No,
was
I
one
think-
that's counting. Wasn't tracking. Sorry.
I think we might actually have 12 because Bruce
added a
and
few.
Colleen joined, but Colleen had to leave. So we had 11 when we had Colleen. So I think we're now at 12.
Okay, thanks.
Rose left as well.
Oh, okay. Then maybe we're at 11.
Wait, you said we had 11 and then Colleen left, which would go down to 10, not up to 12.
So we had
Well,
11
Queen
at
is
the beginning of
here.
the meeting, and then Queen and Bruce joined. So we were up to 13 at one point. So I think we're back at 11.
Okay. Okay, so it looks like there's 2 more people that that haven't submitted then if our math is correct. So what do we do? Are we trying to get this fully ranked now to then have the discussion, or are we holding this off until the December meeting? I just so hey, if there's let's say this speak up if you've not yet been able to complete it, and then we'll still try to just wait and see if we can get through it now. But
I'd like to look at it a little more and then I'll make my vote. This is Queen.
okay. So when you say a little more, like a few more minutes, or were you meaning time past the meeting today?
That'll be this evening.
Okay. So
I'll just share that I think if you don't vote on this today, you will miss the opportunity to weigh in on the budget. I'm pretty sure the budget will be adopted before our next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could I wait till after the meeting and then do all that?
I think the question comes down to what we want to, I think we need to do it within the confines of the meeting. Yeah. So I think we need to do it now during the meeting time so that we can state it as a group, what we are agreeing to as saying is the group's priorities, and then give direction to someone to write it up to send it to the council.
Oh, okay. All right.
Sorry for that confusion, Queen.
That's okay. I'm just gonna have to take a few more minutes to look over this, okay?
Sure, that's fine. Yep.
I'm wondering if maybe while Queen's taking a look and whoever else we're waiting for, we could maybe go ahead and discuss a little bit what thoughts people have on using this as kind of a framework for putting together any comments we want to make to the city.
Scott, do you want to put it back up so we can see it, and then I can verbally talk through it, or Scott or Maggie, maybe you want to do that. You can verbally talk through it for those who are on the phone to hear. Thanks, Scott. So okay, so do you want? I'm happy to go into it, but I don't want to steal your thunder here. So
no thunder. No thunder whatsoever. So of 9, it looks like we've got 9 folks voting thus far. Our top priority is creating new low barrier and affordable housing. So that could tie into kind of the piece in the budget around the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, possibly, well, maybe the third. So, okay, we don't have to go into all that. Our second priority was support for persons experiencing homelessness. Our third was housing stability for low-income renters and homeowners. Fourth, emergency support for low-income renters and homeowners. Appears to be a tie for 5th and 6th between reducing racial disparities in homeownership and stable homes, stable schools. And finally, health and safety resources and engagement for tenants. So some of the stuff we had talked about in the budget that we liked that kind of tie into these are, like I said, the trust fund, the support that the city is committed to public housing for those kind of deeply affordable units for addressing some of the deferred maintenance needs there. We talked about that in the community engagement position, and how, helping folks better navigate through some of these systems. Yeah.
So it seems like there's 2 different ways we could potentially provide feedback. One would be to say, here's our vote, right? And share the results of this, and these are the order we put them in. Another would be to just say, here are our top 3 and give that, which feels like it gives more direction, although certainly many of these are somewhat close. So let's maybe talk just process-wise. Do we want to give feedback on all of this, or we want to say, here are our top 3 things that this committee is really most passionate about?
I will say, like, just, any sort of information, how you present it matters. And so I think being thoughtful about that is helpful. I'm maybe a little concerned that if we, like, let's say we basically shared these results as they are, could there be sort of an unintended inference drawn that, things lower down we don't think are very important at all? Like, without sort of we could certainly provide this along with a more narrative explanation. But at least from my personal perspective, all of these are extremely important. And I would be a little hesitant, I just don't want this to take someone looking at just this on a piece of paper and saying, oh, well, they don't think health and safety is very important, or they don't think stable homes, stable schools is that. Like, I don't mean that to undermine, like, I think this was a helpful process to go through to really prioritize, and this is our, our goal was to try to be a little bit more specific in prioritizing from where our discussion left off last month. But I think that I'm just flagging that as, like, I wouldn't want that to be a council member's takeaway.
And another way we could frame it is to say, these are 7 things that this committee thinks are really important that are in the budget. Of those, and of all these, we will highlight, 2 or 3 that particularly stood out among all of these that we think are important.
Yeah, I agree with you, Joey. I feel the exact same way, because to me, all of these are all of above for me. They're all important. So I hate to just, rank something. Yeah. So, but I agree with you, Joey.
And of course, we're 11 votes, and there's a lot. I mean, we could just say these are 7 things that the committee feels are all really important.
I would echo that also. We've been talking about these 7 categories as important aspects all year, and I think it's fair to say it's a fair representation of what we think there needs to be a focus. I don't think we have to narrow it down to 3.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Any other thoughts or comments about how to share this information?
I'll just add, I agree. And I think if the graph would have looked different, like if it had been like dramatically 1 or 2, it would have felt maybe more important to highlight those, but it's really not. I mean, clearly as a group, we do think all of these are important because there isn't a huge difference I think, in the numbers there.
I think that's a really good point, Charlotte.
Not having been on the committee last year, how did we approach this previously?
Well, last year, I don't think we did it because we had a period of, well, no, I'm not blanking. We had a period of time not meeting, and now I'm blanking on whether that was over the budget time, but I'd say 2 years ago was really giving sort of directional, general direction, saying these are the things that we really care a lot about. We think they're super important, that they're in the budget and they're well funded. And that feels like kind of the extent of the appropriateness of us to say, because we're not having the time to dig in at such a huge level of detail. But this feels, I know that both the, some of the council staffers and the mayor's staff found, reported that hearing our input about the top priorities within housing was helpful. But it sounds like we're kind of coalescing around just sharing these 7 as our top areas of priority. We don't need to rank them because it's not a huge difference to begin with. And really, we're saying they're all important. So, it sounds like we're saying we'll weigh in and provide feedback to the council and the mayor, saying that these are 7 priorities that this committee thinks are really important, and we urge you to prioritize funding these in the budget. Do we need to make a motion on that? Probably. So that would be the general language I think we're saying. I think we can, let's say I'll make a motion that we, Maggie and Scott, do you want to kind of finish this through to the end and be the ones that write it up officially? Would you feel comfortable with that? But the general thrust is we're saying this committee supports strong investment in these 7 specific areas of housing.
Sure, we can take a stab at it. Let me speak for Scott. We'll do it.
I'll make a motion that Scott and Maggie write that on our behalf, and we submit that to the council and the mayor on behalf of this committee. Would anyone like to second my motion?
I second. Queen second.
Yeah, this is Joey. I'll just chime in and say I support that idea. I think that makes sense. And I also just emailed around what we submitted last year. So I think Rose kind of took the lead on this last year, but yeah, she combed through the budget and provided like a number of possible things the committee could vote on, and we took those kind of piece by piece and ended up voting for all the things with a few tweaks. So I just wanted you all to know kind of what we submitted last. It looks like a lot of text, but the first part is like, here's who we are as a committee, here's what we've done this year. And then we said either, we want to increase this thing, or we want to keep supporting this. And then I will just add that we did have a section as well at the end. It's like committee concerns is what it's called. So we said that we were concerned about some aspects. Primary one last year was cuts to the Department of Regulatory Services and the impact that would have. And then we said we would recommend the city council find the funding to backfill some of the positions, inspector positions. And then another concern was that we shared was that we are concerned that the mayor's recommended budget does not meet the current need for resources for residents experiencing or risk of homelessness. So just for kind of historical context, that's what we did last year. We had a few specific things of either increase or keep supporting this. And then here's a couple things we're concerned about not seeing here.
We have a motion, we have a second. Katie, would you be willing to take on the vote, please?
All right, Karina Bowler.
Yes.
Bruce Brunner.
Yes.
Joey Dobson.
Yes.
Colleen Ebinger.
Yes.
Spolinski J. Cox.
Yes.
Ian Kimmons.
Yes.
Charlotte Kinsley.
Yes.
Colleen left, I believe. Maggie Oddie.
Yes.
Scott Schaefer,
Yes.
Russell Smith,
Abstaining. I haven't had time to review this with my membership.
thank you. Rose Tang. Rose had to leave too, right? Annie Wells.
Yes.
Okay, so there are 9 yeses and 1 abstention. So,
Katie, can you remind me the timeline of when we would need to get this in to be useful?
yes, give me 1 second so I can pull up the calendar. For when budget markup is. Sorry, I should have had that ready.
It's all good.
Okay. I believe it's December 8th is when they will take the final vote on the budget. And they'll sort of begin budget markup on December 1st. So sometime in there would be good. and I suppose as soon as you can, the better, but budget markup starts December 1st, so it's probably would be best to do it before that. But the 8th is when they're going to adopt the budget.
Okay. So pretty straightforward. So Maggie, see how you'll work together and do that, and then we'll share it with the again with council and mayor, council leadership and mayor, and then we can share it back with the committee as well. Anything else that we need to cover on the budget then? All right, well, with that, I think we have wrapped up our entire agenda and can adjourn early.
Thank you, everyone.
Great. All right, well,
Thank
this meeting is officially adjourned. Katie, go ahead.
I was just gonna say happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your holiday.
Thanks, everyone. See you in a few weeks.
Bye, everybody. Good to see you all.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Everyone, thanks.
You and your mom?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna go around 5:30. I'm gonna work out here in a few minutes. Um, Mom? Do you know you're calling me on FaceTime?
I didn't mean to. I don't know how to do it. I tried texting you. Did you get the text?
I didn't.
What I was wondering is, do you have any chips and a little bit of sour cream? I've got the chili, but I don't have the
I think I have some chips. I don't know about sour cream, so I'll look. Do we have any sour cream? Any yogurt?
Yogurt?
Gigi's yogurt?
Probably took it with.
No, I don't have any sour cream. Sorry. We can just live without sour cream, I guess. So.
Okay. Where do I go on the phone to text you? I did text you.
The text looks like a little word bubble, you know, like if you're.
Yeah. It's got a little thing on.
Yeah, it has a little tail on the end of it.
Okay. That's where I text. Well, I did already text.
Yeah, I have several different phones and I don't have my personal phone near me, so
That's all right.
yeah, the best way to reach me anytime is this is a fine way, and also emailing. I know you're not on your email, but because I have my email up all the time. So, all right, well, I'm gonna go work out for. No, just probably. Oh, that's good. So
I'll see you later.
Okay, bye bye. Yeah, between 5:30 and 6. I'm gonna go work out in a few minutes. So.
It's
Okay.
so cold outside.
Yeah, I'm gonna work out inside. So. Okay. Bye. I do.
She FaceTimed you?
Yes.
She knows how to FaceTime?